Hey now, welcome to Fitz's Electric Bar. I have a very special guest, very special for me because this is somebody that I've known for many, many years, my first year roommate. How many of you guys are still keeping in touch with your first year roommate? Steve and I are great friends. We had the great pleasure, my wife and I, of spending some time with you last year at the tail end of a bike trip. And one of the things that connected us, I think, right from the beginning was really music. We had
Yeah,
both had a great love of music. And I think also we had certainly some overlapping tastes, but we also had some quite different tastes, but not to the extent that would create fisticuffs, right?
that's right. No, exactly right. I think I've always been someone who had a. I think people perceive me as having unusual taste. It was down to the middle in some respects, but I also had some oddball things that I was just never shy about.
Yeah, I like that. And you also, when you were in high school, were a DJ for a while, right?
Yeah, that was it. It was in Westmount High in the late 70s, and it was with my good friend Peter Solomon, and we just saw a quick way to make a buck, really, and also get into all the parties. We're all 16, 17 at the time, and all the sweet 16 parties, all the different bar mitzvah receptions, whatever. It was a rich vein to strike, actually. So yeah, it was good fun.
And of course, the question that everybody is wondering who's never been a DJ is, did that help you get the chicks?
No, no, it didn't. I wasn't the DJ. He's not the guy who's sort of hanging over the mic all the time and just going, "Hey, and now here's the next one." I wasn't like that. I just did the music. I just really sort of stayed in the background. And Peter once in a while would grab the mic and say something, but I would, we keep it to. It was just really mostly about the music.
One of the things I remember being so excited about first when we didn't set this up, obviously, as you know, but we were paired as roommates, was seeing your sound system come in, these massive pillar
Yeah.
speakers.
Yeah, and well, I couldn't get rid of them. They were just too dear to me, and I just, I didn't come with them at first, but once we sussed out the ground and realized they were going to probably fit just about in there, we took advantage. It was
Up
good
top
fun.
of the vanities or whatever, right? The closets, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, where are you based now? Where are you living now?
I'm living in the very luckily, I'm in the south of France. I'm in the Argelès-sur-Mer is near Perpignan, which is sort of more on the Spanish side of the French Mediterranean. It's a delightful place. It's very Catalan in culture, overlaps from just south of here. And that makes it a bit quirky. It's not classic south of France at all. And my wife and I moved here about 3 years ago after we became empty nesters, combined with, well, COVID normalizing my work being remote. So it was silly not to.
Fantastic. Um, Tell me a little bit about some of your other interests besides music and obviously culture, but what are some other things you're interested in?
Well, I've always been a keen sports fan and participant. I follow the Montreal Canadiens for a long time. I followed Chelsea in the UK, and I'm starting to follow the Perpignan rugby team here. So I've got a sort of a trifecta of teams that I keep on the phone. I'm also big into my own fitness. When I used to be a bit of a gym rat, no longer anymore, but I still sort of do my best to keep fit. Um, and we've got a project here. We took on this house, so my interest right now, if anything else, is landscape gardening, combined with handyman type stuff. So I'm really getting, and I'm really enjoying it. It's becoming kind of a one step into retirement kind of fixation for me.
I think it's great that you're enjoying it. I don't think I have those proclivities, and
I
it's.
didn't think I had them either, you see. I think I just learned by doing, and it's been worth it.
I think more knowledge you have, the more you can enjoy it. At the beginning, it
Yeah,
seems very foreboding, right?
yeah.
Okay, let's jump into the 10 questions. So, first question is what record, and I know I don't think you're playing vinyl right now, right, with your setup, are you?
I have a vinyl player that I have custody of from my son, but I've not used it. I have a crate full of his LPs and vinyl, but I have not actually deigned to put it on yet. No, I'm mostly a CD guy.
Okay. So, what is a front of the pile record, meaning CD for you? What are you listening to these days?
At the moment, there's the latest Peter Gabriel one, which I find is very rewarding on multiple listens. I think it's the strongest album in a very, very long time. Um, I'm also going, I think a lot of retro lately. I've been doing a lot of REM, and also even going way back to Burton Cummings and the Guess Who. And it's I think especially with these days, these fraught times in terms of international politics, my Canadianism comes to the fore, and I do find a lot of Canadian music is resurging for me in my head. So that's been there. There's also a guy that we've talked about briefly once in a while, Montreal guitarist called Walter Rossi, who was he had a couple of big hits, mostly very Quebec centered, in the early '80s. But he did one album in particular that is just one of my top five ever, and I'll always go back to that one.
Right. Tell me about a favorite concert experience in your lifetime.
Um, well, I don't want to repeat. I mean, probably the best concert I've been to in terms of an overall performance was again Peter Gabriel, but it was back on the Secret World Tour. When he had Paula Cole in the band, and she was doing a lot of the female vocal sides on a lot of the tracks. But on that particular night, Sinead O'Connor stepped in, and it was quite an evening. It really was, and that was in London at Earl's Court. But I would say the most energetic um, and happy performance that I saw was Midnight Oil. You probably knew I would say that eventually, but again, around '93 or so. I mean, I've seen them many, many times, especially lately, just before they closed shop. But I was happy to be at it was Shepherd's Bush Empire in 1993, and it was such an important show for me. I just remember it as a landmark moment.
Hmm. You've
Yeah.
had some good ones. I have always been jealous of your Led Zeppelin, your Kate Bush
Well,
shows.
those are the two standouts. That was again the benefit of being in London at the time, and just having the opportunity was yeah, it was lovely.
That's great. Um, Tell me what you think is for you one of the saddest songs ever.
I'd probably go. I think my first instinctive reaction was the closing, the Annie Lennox track to the close of the Lord of the Rings film, Into the West, I think it's called. Uh, just gives me wet eyes every time I listen to it. Just a beautiful track, and also, of course, the emotional culmination of a great saga. So it had to be good.
How about one of the most joyful songs ever?
Um, I'd probably actually go for Simple Minds. I go for a Simple Minds track from the mid '80s. Probably. I'm struggling to remember the name of it, but it's on side two of this A Sparkle in the Rain. Shake Off the Ghost, perhaps, but it's just it's a bounce off the rim kind of track. You just have to you just have to bounce around to it. I love it.
A perfect first record of the day. So the scenario is you come downstairs, everybody's left the house, you grab a cup of coffee, you've got the place to yourself. What's the first record you might put on in the morning?
Um, I think I go for I either go for an acoustic or a jazz. I think I've gone recently for the Fogelberg Weisberg Twin Sons of Different Mothers album, which is I think quite good. And also, I mean, some of the more recent jazz I've listened to is Gene Harris and some of the sort of '70s bop stuff. And I find that's kind of just having that kind of groove to move around to, more as a background sound, is helpful when I'm making the music.
One of the most underrated bands or artists ever, in your estimation.
So many. Um, but I'm going to go back to Walter Rossi. I think he never got quite the recognition he deserved. He was actually asked by Bowie to join his band, but didn't because he had a sick father back in Montreal. But I think he's, in an era when there are so many rock star guitarists, in that late '70s, early '80s era, for me, he still stood out. He had the chops. It's a shame he didn't get more recognition.
Is he still alive?
No, he died maybe 10, 15 years ago. I'm not sure it was a terribly healthy soul, but um, he never really hit the peak. He had there were two albums in particular that sold really well in the early '80s. And then he did one or two more, and then it really just faded away. Again, having not lived there since, I'm not sure if he actually still played the local circuit or not. But he had more of a cult following.
Van Morrison or Jackson Brown?
Jackson Brown. I've never, much like someone else you recently spoke to, I've never quite hit it off with Van Morrison. I'm not sure why. So that's more of a eliminating the negative more than choosing the positive.
Well said. Joni Mitchell or Aretha Franklin?
Oh, can't have both. Ah, man. I guess Joni, obviously just the more of a cultural affinity, and more the poet.
Three must-have desert island discs.
Boy, um, that's tough. It depends what they're supposed to do to me. It's supposed to sort of soothe me, and I'd choose three certain albums. If they were supposed to be sort of, gatekeeper memory sakes, I'd have to choose three more. But um, I think for sort of important albums, um, seem to be the CDs are behind me, and I'm aching to reach behind me and have a look. But it's about,
Reach behind if you like.
yeah. I'll just have a quick glance. One
Mm.
sec. Yeah, yeah. That there's one of the odd. I remember the oddities I used to have an affinity for that I was never shy about playing was his art rock group and Renaissance. And they did a live album at Carnegie Hall in 1976, which I would have to say that's one of my top three. Um, I would I would need Elton John on there just because of the importance of him, as at the beginning of my sort of musical journey. And amongst his albums, I'd probably have to choose Yellow Brick Road, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Um, Third, I'd probably then try to branch it out style-wise, and I'd probably try and get uh, I'd probably go with Billy Cobham. Billy Cobham Jazz Fusion. He did an album called Stratus. Again, I'm kind of a 70s kid, so that was from the 70s. And that's got some real anthems on it that I go back to often. And so I'd probably enjoy that just to keep a positive attitude.
Did you go see Billy Cobham when he came to Grant Hall in at Queens?
I never knew that happened. Wow.
Yeah,
No, that was during our time there with it,
that was
obviously.
during our time. I remember seeing the show. I don't even know why I went. I didn't know who Billy Cobham was. I just felt like it seemed like an important show to go to. It was around the same time that Muddy Waters played Grant Hall.
Yeah. I wasn't really aware of him. But I'll tell you, the odd way I became aware of him was that he was the drummer on Deodato's one-hit wonder, the 2001 remake. And Cobham did the drums on that, and he was part of a sort of a studio setup there, session guys who all sort of stuck together. And he ended up using a lot of the same guys, including Deodato, on his albums. And they were, more to his style, and I think it really worked well.
I think he was a
CTI,
member.
I think
Sorry, I
some of
was
the
going to say,
label
I
was
think he was a
CTI.
member of Mahavishnu Orchestra as well.
Oh, was he?
I believe so. I don't know if he was a constant there, but I believe he
Right,
played certainly with John McLaughlin, but I think he is part of Mahavishnu Orchestra as well.
right, 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 right. Yeah. Well, I did eventually see him live many, many years later when I was a member at Ronnie Scott's Club in London and for about 8 years before we left town. And that was God, that was one of the best things I ever did. Even if sometimes you don't connect with the music itself, the musicianship was mind-blowing. But I saw Cobham there, Billy Cobham there with a big band. Um, and struggling to remember the guy's name, the arranger and the leader of the band, but he's worked with them on record before as well. Anyway, that was a great show. Great
Hmm.
show.
Yeah, one day we should just do a whole segment on your Ronnie Scott experiences.
Yeah. Some were bitter disappointments. I mean, there was remember sort of paying a top dollar to go see Dr. John, but he was just too old by that point. It was a little bit depressing. I mean, there's so many old rockers out there still trying it on, and some get away with it, um, that he didn't.
Sorry, Dr. John. Okay, here are some 5+ questions for you. So, I'm going to give you the opportunity to drop into a music scene, and I'll give you some possible choices, but you can also choose your own one. So one choice would be Laurel Canyon, Joni Mitchell, CSN, Neil Young, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Another one would be the UK punk, uh, early punk scene. So the Clash, Sex Pistols, Stranglers, all that kind of thing.
Mm.
The New York City CBGBs, Television, Blondie, Talking Heads, Ramones, etc. The Manchester scenes, and you could almost break it into two. It'd be the post-punk factory stuff, and then so Joy Division,
Yeah.
New Order, Vinnie Riley, that stuff. And then the second one would be the Manchester scene, kind of the rave scene of Happy Mondays, or In Spiral Carpets, Stone Roses, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Hamburg, 60 to 62. Our good friend Jeff chose that one. So what scene would you choose among those or of your own choosing?
Now the Laurel Canyon certainly appeals straight away. I've read a number of books on the Barney Hoskins books about the era, which are great. So I gravitate to that naturally. You mentioned, sorry, in between that there was the London post-punk scene. I kind of got the tail end of that, and I don't want to repeat that. I don't think so. And then New York CBGBs, that intrigues. That could be, that kind of passed me by. So out of rank curiosity, I'd probably just drop into that one.
Okay, perfect. Um, you've kind of talked a little bit about this, but hoping you might choose somebody else. Your favorite French Canadian artist or band?
Well, okay, I will choose someone else. It's harmonium. Yeah,
That's who I thought you'd choose.
yeah. No, it's a slam dunk for me, and I do, and they're just. I mean, well, I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but they were re-releasing sort of 40th anniversary versions of their classic albums lately, and I was right on that. What they've done is they've entirely reproduced them. I mean, they'd actually sound really quite different. So that in itself has made it interesting. But yeah, no, I think that and especially living here in France now and getting more of the French language in my head lately, I'm attuned to their lyrics. I can read the lyrics clearly now and see a lot of what they're saying, and it is poetic. It's lovely stuff. What they wrote back then was it's really really lovely. I'm not usually a lyrics guy. I usually gravitate to the tune. That's what draws me into music. And if the lyrics are good, it's a bonus. Um, and in that regard, uh, I won't say anything else except that they do, great lyrics and great music.
For a neophyte, what would be a good entree into the harmonium catalog?
They did three albums, and they're all so different. But I would say start at. I mean, there's the first one, which is the classic harmonium cover. It's brown. I think it's just self-titled harmonium, and it's very acoustic. And you get the feeling you're in a coffee shop in Montreal listening to these three or four guys play, and it's very atmospheric. And then the second one becomes much more electronic and a bit more ambient, and has beautiful sort of float away tracks to it. And then the last one is an opus. Letad is this. It's 7 songs over 2 LPs, and it's a man's journey from stupidity to wisdom over in 7 songs. And it really is. Some of the lyrics are really quite profound, I found. So.
Right. What singer-songwriter has had the most interesting career evolution or career arc in your estimation?
Well, I think of the many transformations of Bowie. Um, that he burned out too early, but um, that's a very interesting question. Um, no, I think I'll stick with that. I can't. I think the those that are still around. I do also like Springsteen's progression. I think he has gone from that sort of stadium rocker. I mean, he still is to some extent a stadium rocker, but it's become a lot more um, insightful, and sort of present. The music is always very present. So I always feel like he's important. Um, but that said, I'm not sure he's migrated enough. I would have to, in terms of just drastic change, I'll stick with Bowie. It's a hard question to answer.
Hmm, good. 2 points for me. Um, what's one record slash CD that is held up really, really well in your record collection that you still enjoy listening today, maybe as much as you did in yesteryear?
Oh, there's a lot of them. Because I was moving around a lot, I shrunk my physical media collection quite a bit, and I was relying on streaming, and I still rely quite a bit on streaming. But I feel like I'm a bit settled here, so I'm now exploding the CD collection, and I've been filling in all kinds of holes in the back catalog, so to speak. Um, and I've gone back to quite a few things. I'll probably I have to say one amongst many, and it's not singling enough for any particular reason, but one is Procol Harum. Procol Harum's Grand Hotel album, which was a bit I think is an underestimated gem, that one. I mean, they were outstanding songwriters, and you know after they got over the whiter shade of pale overexposure, it settled down into a couple of really good albums, and that was one of them. And I really enjoyed that one back to front.
What's a great rock biography and or a great music documentary?
Well, the biography that sticks out immediately is, and I know we've talked about this before between us, but Robbie Robertson's book Testimony is outstanding, and it was so insightful for me to learn so much about the early Toronto music scene, as much as anything. Um, so, it was certainly his version of events, and he came out as the hero in so many of the scenes, so you take that with a grain of salt, but it was a great read, great, great read. Um, and the uh, one of the great documentaries I've seen, I think we talked about this maybe last year, but there's something on Netflix, it probably is still there, called The Greatest Night in Pop. It's a fly on the wall documentary about the making of We Are the World by all these American artists in Los Angeles under the tutelage of Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. And but just seeing all the interaction, including Dylan, all these people interacting in this one room together, it was fascinating, really good.
I have yet to watch that. I'm glad you reminded me. I've heard, well, you were maybe one of the first to tell me it
Yeah.
was worth seeing.
Mhm.
What's the name of that Barclay James Harvest album that we listened to in first year?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, it's funny. I went back to them recently and realized that they didn't age well. But there was an album called October on, which had a blue cover and had this very weird track called Suicide on it, where a guy talks about losing the will to live, and then the last thing you hear is thump on the ground, as if and I think, what the hell did they do that for? Anyway, then they had another one after that. I forget the name of the album. Gone to Earth comes to mind. But it's the one that has hymn on it, and that has a, it's a it does sound like a hymn at the beginning, with just a guitar-based hymn. And that kind of sound, really, it is very much, in their own words, they are the poor man's Moody Blues, you know.
The
Um,
that track Suicide. I don't remember if you told me what was coming, but I can remember lying in bed, staring at the clouds in the ceiling of our dorm room and going like, "Holy shit." Because you were playing it loud, I think, as well.
yeah. But it's like a good joke. Once you've heard the joke, it kind of, when you hear it the second, third, fourth times, it doesn't age well, as I say.
Right,
But that, you know what, I think they were huge in Germany for whatever reason. So you still see a lot of their stuff in the secondhand racks around here somewhere.
right. Awesome. And last question, just a little one, which is, what's the meaning of life?
The meaning of a life is to be part of a community and have self-respect. That's for me is basically as simple as I can say it from my perspective. Just to, yeah, be part of something bigger and hope that bigger thing survives and carries on. Wow. It's maybe you should get another question that's lighter at the end.
I want to leave people with a real sense of existential dread,
It'll work.
leave them questioning things. Well, thank you very much, Steve, and look forward to catching up without this rigid structure.
Sorry. Fitz, it was a pleasure to participate in this. And yeah, I'd love to do the same to you one day, or maybe yours is part of this process. I look forward to hearing
I'm debating that very question, whether I should be participating or not.
it.
Thank you.